episode of Life from the Other Side. I am your host, Laura West. Today I have with me Steve Noack. Steve is a near death experiencer, or NDEer for short, and a 0 point energy practitioner. Thank you, Steve, so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to dive in and talk about the experience that you had in that NDE and also what is meant by a 0 point energy practitioner. So, without further ado, do you want to share a little bit about who Steve is?
Yeah, that's a complicated question.
It is, it's loaded.
I feel like I've lived three lifetimes already. But I am a healer by kind of accident, literally. I kind of discovered that I had a gift for healing. I used to work retail management. Woman had an accident outside my store. I touched her. Things happened and whatnot. And uh, it was little things along the way that kind of led me here to be a healer and start to really leave my 3D work and step into this role. But yeah, I'm a healer. But more importantly, I'm a regular person. You know, I'm grounded. I lived a lot of my life normal. Had my NDE later in my life. Things happened again that helped me remember. And I think getting the regular education and going through regular things was very valuable to me. So I'm a regular person, just like everybody else. They can do what I do. And I think that's why I'm here to tell them my story, you know?
That's wonderful, and I'm sure also very nice to hear for many of us that regular people are doing extraordinary things, and so I think that that can give a lot of people hopefully hope and inspiration that even though they may deem themselves quote unquote normal or regular, that they too are capable of extraordinary things. So, Steve, yeah,
Absolutely.
if you wouldn't mind maybe sharing some of the specifics of what you just shared.
Sure. Well, I can start with the NDE that I
Yeah.
experienced when I was four. I was riding a plastic big wheel, and my brother was calling to me from across the street. We were getting ready to leave, and I went down my neighbor's driveway between two parked cars, and another car was coming down the street, and then that's when we collided. I went underneath the car. The woman was drinking, so she didn't know she hit me at first. I was so small. She kept going for another 20, 25 feet, and people stopped her. And what I remember is like a blur of leaving the driveway, and then I remember seeing myself, and I see my eyes roll in the back of my head, and then everything fades to black. And when it opens again, it's like, you know, when you're watching a movie and the screen goes to black and it opens again. When it opens again, I'm sitting up, but I'm leaning on someone, but I'm mostly in sitting up position and my head is down. And as I open my eyes, I could see catch part of hair that is almost touching the ground, and it's silvery white, luminescent in a way is the best way I could describe it, as well as kind of like a silver grayish robe or the bottom of a robe. And so to me, in my senses, I'm leaning on someone. I think it's a person. I turned to him and I asked him what happened, and it wasn't a person. It was a being, a hooded being that had no face. They only had light where their face should be. They said my name. They told me I was in an accident, that everything was going to be all right. And as we're speaking, I'm becoming aware, and I remember being aware that we weren't speaking, moving our mouths. I remember that. And as we're speaking, and I'm sort of trying to figure out what's happening, um, I'm being pulled into this being's face, and I'm leaning and leaning and leaning, and I could feel. And that's when I catch a glimpse and feel what I would think to be what we would say heaven would be. You know, I don't know, you know, I'm only seeing it and feeling it. So I see colors and I see flowers and I see the most beautiful nature scene you can imagine. And the colors are alive, they're breathing. I see people there. I see old people. I see children. I feel the laughter, and I instantly get hit with this feeling of knowing that that suffering and pain cannot exist there. So I wanted to go there. And then that's when they said, it's not your time. We have something else to show you. And then the next thing I knew is I'm in this other place, and it's almost like you're being surrounded by a blueprint, a graph paper. You know, if anybody ever saw a blueprint where a building is drawn on it and you can see the blueprint behind it,
Yeah.
it was like that. It was like I could see things, but behind it I was seeing some sort of structure or blueprint. And this is when they told me this is the quantum field. Each human being possesses a divine blueprint, an image of God that they were made in. And this image doesn't go away. It doesn't die. It's not a 55 Chevy, okay? This is there forever, but you have to use your free will to claim it. And you have to want it to integrate with you and identify with it the way you've identified with other things in this world.
Mm-hmm.
So they showed me that. They brought me to a place that was a lot like a medicine wheel. And in the middle, I was in the middle, and I was pure energy and pure love. And they were like, this is how you enter this physical matter, this physical reality, pure love. And then you spend your energy to experience things, people, places on an energetic level. And this energy does not die, doesn't go away, but it can be transformed. And they told me that these images were kind of like projected to the quantum field, and then it cycles through our energetic system to give us an emotional experience through our emotional body. So they kind of taught me how to, they said you can command these energies stored here and memories very similar to a computer that has stored data. And this is old data. Anybody that knows computers, I'm not sure if any of your listeners do, but I'm going to take a long shot. There's an option to restore, to defragment a hard drive of its programs and the things that it's stored, data that it's no longer needed. And they were really talking to me in that language, that our subconscious is a lot like a hard drive. Our waking consciousness is like the operating system running these programs. Mm-hmm. And they walked me through a bit of that. Trying to think of what else they showed me. They equated this image of God, this divine blueprint, the same way you were to buy a computer at a store and you needed to restore it. And that file is always on your computer to restore it to its original state and basically purge out all this old data. They taught me, I instantly knew that I was one with everything, and then there was no separation. And like religion just got wiped off the map, and everything became, to me, a feeling or a frequency that could match what I felt when I experienced my NDE. And I chased that for a large part of my life, like subconsciously, having bad accidents, just being reckless. And I couldn't access the memories. Okay, when I was 4, I came out, I knew something had happened, I could feel it, but I could not remember what happened.
Interesting.
After the second accident, and I was in for surgery, flipping a car over 5 times, doing 75 miles an hour. It was pretty reckless. I didn't think I was going to live past 40, honestly. So I'm in for the second surgery, and that's when the voice returns. And I'm getting very anxious. I want to leave. I hadn't had medication yet. I don't know what came over me, honestly, but I wanted to get up and go, and I had to get out of that place. And as soon as I felt that feeling, another feeling hit me, and it was peace, and it was love, and it was like somebody wrapped me up in a blanket, and I could feel it. And then that's when the voice returned, and it said the same thing it said to me at 4, and that's really what triggered me. And then I recognized that's the same voice. Stephen, everything's going to be okay. You were in an accident. I'm like, oh my God. And then that's when all this psychic stuff started. And I didn't consider myself psychic. I think everybody has an energetic system and they can feel energy in fields. So I was just separated from that. So upon experiencing that, I go back to this medicine wheel thing. And all of a sudden, I'm awake and I'm seeing with my eyes my own projections out into the field in all these different places. And it was like that was overlaying material reality. It was like I was seeing that the energetic structure behind my reality I'd formed.
Wow.
And I had to start changing my frequency, changing my energy, addressing these energies. A lot of supernatural experiences in between that to bring me back to love, back to God, to remind me of what that felt like in me.
Yeah.
Because I believe we're all part of the same divine being, and we get that amnesia,
Mm.
you know. They also talked about the higher self, lower self. They talked about ascension, how they would return for the evolution of humanity,
Mm.
and they would basically integrate with a lot of willing people to do the divine work on the planet now. Um, yeah.
Okay, so when you say that, the like people who would be considered light workers, are those the ones that you're referring to that are doing the divine work now, or?
To me, light work is kind of like a dollar store term, because it's so generalized now and so overused. But yes, the people who are bringing through the Christed, the love energy without a filter in the way, without the judgment, and just giving and not counting that cost, and connecting others. And I think, you know, love is contagious. Just, you need to embody it first, heal yourself, and then give it to others, you know?
Yeah,
So I think the people doing that work, yeah.
that's really interesting. I don't know if I've told you this before, or if you knew, but when I was in my teenage years, I had a dream visitation from Jesus, and in that dream,
Hmm.
he asked me to spread his word, and I learned more recently that what he meant was to spread the word of love. So
Hmm.
that's why I do all that I do. So, wow, that's fascinating to think that there may be some entanglement with the divine. I mean, which to me makes sense, but it could explain for me why I
Yeah.
feel like I'm constantly out of my comfort zone doing this kind of thing, even though at the same time it feels really good. So, oh, that's really incredible.
And then, other things too, like Jesus to me became a messenger who was here to show us how to undergo ascension and purification of our lower self. That is half of the problem we're experiencing in society today is the unaddressed emotions we have, which leads to, in the terms of neuroscience, neural hijacking, is when your emotions, they become so much they override your rational thought, and we're seeing it. And these emotions need to be discharged because they're stored to cellular memory, they're tied to subconscious mind. And this is something I think is so beautiful that we're getting these tools from the divine to tell us how to reorganize, rebirth, if you will. Um, yeah, it's been a wild ride to go from being a regular person who barely believed in God and was a skeptic to in 15 years, 10 years doing this.
Oh, see, so that was my other question was what was your sort of religious status prior to all of this? So I guess skeptic or figuring things
Yeah, it
out.
was. I knew there was a God, but I didn't like him. I figured, blame everything on him, right? Uh, like everybody else. But then I started to become more accountable and more responsible. And it wasn't until I had experienced enough pain in my life
Mm-hmm.
that it brought me to empathy and love.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very strange that it did that. And I wish it would do that for everybody. But I had had enough of feeling this, and I wanted to feel love. And I disconnected pretty much from everybody and everything I could, and I found God in me. Initially, when they returned after that second NDE, I was a store manager, a retail store manager at the time that they returned the second time. And it was like overnight, it was like somebody placed a sun inside my center in my chest. And it was just going and going and going. And it was like I couldn't sleep, trying to separate reality from, what's not reality. a lot of those symptoms, and it just slowly consumed me to where I had to leave my job. But what
Mm.
happened was when I first realized, okay, something's going on here, was a woman fell outside my store on the cement, and she was hurting. She was a senior, right on the cement.
Mm.
And I put my hand on her, and I was not that type of person at the time. Put my hand on her, and she looked at me, and she was hurting. And she goes, I'm all warm, and I don't feel any pain. And then the EMTs came, and I went back to my station. I was like, that was weird. And it was just a series of those events of like, why is this happening, God? What is going on? Where is this knowledge coming from? Because I would have quantum stuff in my head, and I didn't go to college. I didn't go to school. I didn't study it. My family and friends thought I was nuts. They wanted me to see a shrink. So I had to really go through being alone and solidify knowing myself, between myself and my creator, before I could move forward. So that was a big leap, taking that time, and changed my personality overnight. I tried to find every church I could, talk to every person I could about what was happening and why, and how they didn't know that there was a spiritual war going on. Because as soon as I woke up, it was like somebody flipped a switch. I knew we were at war for our emotions, for our energy, and that humanity was being kept into a lower state of vibration. Not necessarily consciously, but that we were also quantum energy generators. You know, our hearts connecting our mind, our heart, I could heal my body. Using my mind and my heart, I can heal this person. I can help this person, at least move into that space of healing. Sorry, that
Have
was a
you?
lot.
No, oh no, gosh, this is good. Um, so many questions. So, how do you make that switch of mind, heart to heal? Is it just really believing and trusting that you can, or is it more than that?
You want to work on your belief. And that's something I tell every client, that I can't give them,
Yeah.
but I can help them figure out what it feels like. And I tell them, when you're doing your things and you're going through your, if you want to say affirmations, I call it programming, because if you don't program yourself, the world's going to program you for you when you go out in it with everything going on. So you want to go out into the world pre-charged, so the world can't knock you off of your foundation.
That makes
So
sense. Yeah.
yeah, I tell them when they do their stuff in the morning, say it like you know it's a fact, and eliminate what is in between you feeling that it is not fact. That's where you want to work. There's a gap there. Same like if you were going to go to the bathroom mirror and you say, you're beautiful. Instantly you know how much of you believes, how much of you doesn't. So you want to eliminate that gap, and it's same with belief and healing and faith. When I tell someone, you know instinctively water is wet, fire is hot. You are a sovereign being. You are healing. You have a right to not only this much space, but to be a part of everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have authority over that.
So, how is it just a matter to believe? Is it just a matter of, like you said, you're programming every morning, for
Mm-hmm.
instance? Is it just sort of saying the same thing until you believe it? Or,
I would I would practice that with your feelings, yes, but I would couple it
yeah,
with other practices. So it's not just solely doing that, but
yeah,
yes, incorporating that into I I am love as an energy. This
yeah.
is my identity. And practicing with that, because the more you believe, the more you integrate, the more this becomes you, then your body's healing because it's integrating with that healing energy. So working on separating the part of me that does not believe that is
Mm-hmm.
important. And I've done the work on myself and so many people now that it's like I know this is going to happen, and I know how to generate that feeling of knowing. Because when you're doing your healing at home, when you're doing your emotional, physical, doesn't matter what it is, if you spend your time asking or wishing for something to heal, that's not nearly as powerful as training your mind to know it is already healed, even if it hasn't yet.
Oh,
And spend your time doing that. I know this is healed.
okay.
I know it's already done. And that is a much more powerful signal to allow the type of energy into your light body for that healing. I've seen
Got it.
miracles, and to tell you the truth, I can't even believe, I was a part of that or in that doing that. I look at it and I'm like, that can't be you. I firmly believe everybody is worthy of redemption because of what I went through, where I'm at now. And all people can do this, and they should know that they can claim their healing. They can filter out all this garbage they accumulated from the world and step out of their shadow and anything that tells them who they are.
Hmm. Hmm. That sounds wonderful. So you mentioned that we're in this spiritual war with our emotions and things. Is that why there seems to be this influx of spirituality and interest in spirituality and things like
And
that?
then
Do you
the
think?
anti-spirituality, all of a sudden emerging. Yes, it's almost like one comes up and the other is with it, because it's as above, so below. It's
Yeah.
polarity. One can't exist without the other. Like, we wouldn't exist in these bodies without a positive charge and a negative charge. But it's up to me how much I want to embody, how much I want to
Mm.
experience of one or the other. Yeah, it's definitely has a lot to do with the evolution, people waking up, and the harvesting that's going on. Okay, and I'm going to go out on a limb here. You know,
Okay.
we see 3% of the visible light spectrum with our eyes. There's another 97%. There are
Mm.
beings interdimensional that we don't see, that I didn't even believe in until I experienced it and experienced it again and again and again. And I'm like, all right, you're real. Because being a skeptic, I need those one after the other after the other. Okay, I got it. So there are interdimensional beings that are just strictly made up of this type of energy, and they want to survive. They're not evil; they just want to live.
Mm.
So they're kind of in humanity's consciousness, the same way the divine is, and they want to grow, expand, survive, thrive. They're taking up a lot of the energy that we could have, harvesting that quantum energy to do it, because we're quantum energy generators. And heaven is within. That's where your heart is. That's where heaven is. And the war for the real gold in the world is the war on your emotions.
Mm.
And that's why you become emotionally sovereign. You don't allow any lower emotion to propagate in your nervous system. Doesn't matter if it's friend, family, foe. No, you don't belong here. This is a peaceful system. But these beings just seem to, through humanity, pump out this garbage
Mm.
that has humanity separating itself from its true identity. It seems to be
Mm.
so many things I see now in programming are pulling you further away from your identity as love. Whether it's about our skin color, our gender, our race,
Mm.
our sex. No, I'm love. I don't need a label here. I'm love as an
Yeah.
energy having a human experience. And that's it. So a lot of it is
Yeah.
pulling us away from the present and
Sure.
gathering that gap.
So are we allowed to, feel anger or sadness or those emotions?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. We're allowed to feel them. They're allowed to teach us. But when we say they go, they go. They're
Mm.
visitors, and they're allowed to visit us for the time that we allow them to be there. But when it's time to say, hey, it's time to go, it's time to go. But you want to be able to have a high enough frequency and a high enough charge in your nervous system. In other words, being able to have enough access to your consciousness and your nervous system, your mind, your heart, so that you can exit that space. Dark's here to teach you. It's not here to bind you unless you attach and identify with it. That's why it's
Sure.
important to always identify ourselves as the energy of love. I am not what I'm feeling in this moment. I am the energy that's feeling that. Go through my system as data, and it will dissipate. It will exit my system. It's a charge. I don't have to attach to that, because then it becomes bigger.
Sounds like a meditative practice, right? With our
Yeah, it's
thoughts and
definitely
our
being very
emotions with
aware.
that.
Like I said, I spent a lot of years to myself on purpose because I wanted to really
Yeah.
know myself and
Yeah.
control all the neurons and all the neural pathways. And really be able to move freely.
Sure. Yeah. So you mentioned earlier a higher self and lower self. And then you were explaining like the emotions and everything. Is that the lower self? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's like
Can you
our
like,
shadow.
yeah.
So that's made up out of, the
Hmm.
lower scale of emotions, anger, worry, fear, stress, as opposed to the higher self that people are, as they're awakening, they're starting to form this now. They're starting to form connectivity between the charges and their nervous system and their subconscious to the quantum field. And they're building this almost like building a character in a video game, using your
Hmm.
emotions and your actions and your activities. But yeah, the lower is the shadow, the higher is your divine self. One breeds separation, competition, suffering, war. The other one breeds empathy, compassion, oneness.
Hmm.
And it's up to us to kind of choose and control the embodiment and how much of our emotions we're going to allow to build up and overtake us. This is exactly what's happening with humanity. They just don't have the tools to know, understand, and process what's going on behind the scenes. If they knew they could plug in to a
Sure.
singularity of love and purge that system,
Yeah.
if they
Wow.
wanted to,
What a
you can't
difference.
force them to.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. What a difference the world would be. I wanted to talk to you two things now. So before I forget, I'm taking some notes too. The hooded
Mm-hmm.
figure, the hooded being or entity, in terms that we can understand here, and what I mean is like angel or spirit guide or ascended master. Do you think that that entity was something like
It was
that?
it was definitely an archangelic energy. It was an archangel.
Ah,
From what I understood and learned, their energies, their frequencies, they exist within all of mankind because everything we see is within. Um, so they exist as frequencies within us that we can attain and embody. And we see this also on the reverse by what's happening with mankind, where they embody those lower
mm,
entity frequencies, demonic, if you call it, and it's stuff that just really makes you wonder how that's even possible. We are
yeah,
both angel and demon. We embody a divine, or we can embody a core darkness, and identify with that. Um, Archangel was something that took me a long, long time to figure out. It wasn't something that I went looking for. It wasn't something
mm,
that I just decided. It was many years of a process of elimination and me denying
mm-hmm,
this. And it wasn't until I started to be able to give this information to people that I started to really blossom and heal and grow. Um, because it was going to shatter my brain. I was either crazy or something was happening. So yeah, Archangel, but their frequencies, their energy, and it's almost like if you
okay.
ever saw the cover of the Pink Floyd album, where the or
With
light
the
coming
prism?
through a prism, and then yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot like that, and they operate
Oh,
through our seven or more energy centers, but those are the
yeah.
main ones. And on the reverse, for the reverse polarity, you have, you know, demonic realms, for lack of a better word. It's more like it's
Sure.
us. Uh,
Mm,
and those grant that lower experience. So you're looking at like experiences and energy and embodiments and things like that.
got it. Okay. Oh shoot, what was I gonna say?
Sorry, I went off on that.
No, oh gosh, no, that's good stuff. Of course. Okay, well maybe I remember. Do you still communicate regularly with that archangel?
I connect regularly in feeling and embodiment and in doing my healing work. There's a lot of
Okay.
times we'll have communication and it will be funny stuff, like nonstop peanut gallery. I'm laughing, nobody else is laughing around me. Um, Stuff, and then guidance a lot where I'll have a
Mm,
charge hit me, okay, and that charge will contain data and information, and I believe that's called clear cognizance, and it's like I instantly know something. Okay, you got to go do this. Okay, you
yeah.
got to do this. It's a lot of ideas dropping in, and then a lot of writing A lot, yeah.
Mm,
So a lot coming through there. Um, you know, I don't want to. I'm not quick to label hey who it was, because I never really gotten an answer.
sure.
But
Yeah.
to me, it doesn't even matter, man. I just love being here and doing this. And if it was one of the seven archangels, an angel, God, and I can do this, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So that near death experience happened when you were
Hmm.
4, but you didn't remember any of it until you had the surgery?
Yeah, I would try to remember what happened. I knew something had happened by thinking about it. You
Uh,
could feel it, and I was like, it's like you're trying to
yeah.
remember what happened, and you know something happened, but
Yeah.
you can't. And it wasn't until that voice
Yeah.
came in, all these visions, and it was like I went to the doctor's
Wow.
office the next week, and I partially flipped out on the guy, and I still feel bad about this. This was like 15 years ago, 10 years ago. And I said, "What did you do to me?" I was going on kind of, and I could sense energies over in this room, and I knew there was a spirit in there. And it was like, I was like, "Really, what did you do to me?" And I was like, I told him what happened and all that. And I was just different after that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. He was like, "Oh, it was probably the drugs."
Yeah, I don't know what that guy was thinking, call the cops or something. But I was in that stage of like franticness where I didn't
Sure.
expect this.
Yeah.
I didn't know all this was going to happen. And when it happened, like I said, I was ready to admit myself to the hospital. When I started to walk through experiences, I went to the gas station on my break, and I remember this kid got out of line and he grabbed something, and he turned to his father and he asked for it. And his father said, sure. And then he did it again, but he only had one. And the cashier was doing the same thing. And they said the same exact words. And I'm, what the hell just happened?
Like a glitch in the
Right.
system.
So I went back to my car, and
Like the
I walk
Matrix.
out and I get into my car. It's on the radio. I turn the car on. They're talking to a woman. She's laughing. She just won a contest. And then all of a sudden, click, the phone is ringing on the radio. And it's the woman. And they're telling her the question. And then she answers. I'm like, I just heard this. I already know the answer. And I couldn't
Oh my
separate
goodness.
what I was experiencing from what was reality. And that was for a few
Mm,
weeks,
yeah.
few months, until I was able to integrate and really surrender. Basically, just surrender to be remade, because
Wow.
I had a lot to clean out. Um,
That reminds me of the Matrix.
oh my God, once I was done with it, I could see
Seriously.
everything. Once I was disconnected, and I believe, yes,
Yeah.
we're in, to me, it feels like I was inserted into this body. I was told and trained and prepared for what to expect on getting myself reconnected to the field when I arrived here. And that's just what it feels like in my core. Um, and it was about 2008 when everything changed. And they said they'd be back, and they came back. You know, since then, I've
Wow.
had hundreds of
Okay.
clients all around the world.
Okay. Well, that leads me to my next question. 0 point
Mhm.
energy practitioner. What does that mean?
That 0 point energy is basically a new discovery of energy that they previously once thought was vacuum space. But if you can polarize it, it contains unlimited potential. It's neutral motion energy. What I do, and it's also a maximum ground energy. That's why it's neutral motion. That's why it's a vacuum space type energy. What I can do is facilitate a charge that brings a person's nervous system into a maximum ground state. This means the other energies that are attached begin to release, and that they can harness and use that 0 point energy for their healing, because they have a
Mm,
right to it. Every person has a right to self heal if they know how to go about it. But yeah, it's a maximum ground state in love, and it feels very unattached and um, like free, very free.
got it. Yeah. So can people be certified in this type of healing? Do
I
you
have not
offer
offered any 0 point
classes?
yet. I do have a lot of people asking me, so I'm working on a program that can get them certified in learning how to transmute, bring people into a 0 point state. Because transmutation
Hmm.
and turning this energy can't be destroyed, it can only be transformed. So you need to know how to transform that energy, alchemize it. But yeah, I do want to
Yeah.
offer one in the future. For now, I teach Usui Reiki because that's kind of how I started. And then all of a sudden,
Okay.
I'm here, so I want to form a new program to have people really bring in that crystalline energy, that Christed energy, whatever they want to call it. But I believe it's their
Yeah. Yeah.
divine right, and to have clean space and feel love again in their system in a safe way.
So tell me you've had thoughts of writing a book about
Oh, yes,
everything.
I'm definitely working on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm like, I'm such a comedian, though. I'm like, as I'm going along, I'm like, should I include this? Should I include this experience and this experience? And I think I really just need to tailor it down to something that includes chapters, one on faith, one on this, one on that, one on that. Because to me,
I say just write it all down. Write it all down and give it to an editor and let them
that's an
figure it
option, huh?
out.
Yeah.
Because maybe they'll split it into multiple books.
Yep.
Who knows?
I do believe people are going to
Yeah.
definitely get a book version of this material so that they can self transmute and release themselves and free
Yeah.
themselves from this matrix that tells them that they're this or they're that. No, nobody has a right to
Yeah.
identify you for you. Nobody. So what I wanted to include was also one other thing was work on connecting your mind to your heart until your body feels it. Because this means you're now generating charge, you're generating energy from the quantum field within your system. So what I do is throughout my day, daily practices, is I will play with my mind and my heart like I'm playing with a fidget spinner. You know, I'll be walking up the grocery aisle and I'll be breathing and I will think about a beautiful day I had in nature. Don't matter if it's 1994 or not. And I will see what my heart feels and I will just play with that. And if it doesn't feel that full expression of love, I know there's a piece of data that I need to address or part of myself that I formed throughout the day that I need to say, okay, time to go. I know, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Let me come back into alignment with love, things like that. But focus on really connecting the mind to the heart, because when these become disconnected, that's when dysfunction happens. The mind and the heart can heal the body through the expression and the projection of its energy. So that's why it's very important. And that's also why a lot of things in society, propaganda, things like that, want to disconnect those. You want to stay in line so you have your discernment and you're sharp and you know what to allow and what not to allow into your nervous system. Don't consume a lot of data that's low.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what I want to leave with mind, heart, body.
And how would you maybe guide somebody who, say, for instance, maybe doesn't have a lot of good memories to draw from? What is something else that they can do?
Something else, find the feeling of love. The one time you felt feeling of love, not from a person, but in a moment. I stress, do not focus these on people, focus on moments or experiences when
That's
you
good to
felt
know.
love, when you felt peace, and remember what that feels like. And then just work on it, because it's going to take a couple minutes to call it up, because you're trying to really strengthen the pathway until you can feel it, because as it gets stronger, you'll feel more. It's a lot like if any of you or any of your viewers have seen a radio that works without batteries. And it'll work if you wind it
Yep,
and wind it
yep.
and wind it and charge it. So that's what you want to do. You want to charge. And until you form this part of you that's already connected to the divine. I'm already this. I don't
Sure.
need anything else,
Sure.
you know.
And that's such great advice, because I feel like that's something that anybody can at least attempt. And at any point, like you said, in the
Mm-hmm.
grocery store or something like that, we don't have to sit there and take 30 minutes, for quiet time when we've got things going on at the house. So no, I think that that's really, really
Yeah.
nice advice, and something that people can start to incorporate now. So,
Oh, yeah. I could be in the traffic. I'm in
well, there you
traffic and
go.
I'm ordering lower data to leave my system. I will speak to myself like a
Yeah.
computer. I command you through, the singularity of love, through the Christ, to uninstall, and I reinstall a program of divine love. And I can feel the love enter me and things like that. So it's just connecting and playing and allowing yourself to feel and learning how to control and shift charges.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point too. Do you think just the act of saying it out loud is powerful?
Oh, yeah, very powerful. The most powerful, okay, the word created the universe, right? So you want to use your word, because your word is your will. and you want to use your will and assert your will to command that space to be clear. Your viewers, me, don't only have a claim to this much space, we have a claim to every single thing in this world because we are a part of
Mm.
it. We're only separated by our mind and our matter.
Okay. All right. Oh, that's really great. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Well, this has been so fantastic, and I really want to thank you so much so far for what you've shared. To help wrap up our interview, I was wondering, Steve, do you have any sort of parting messages for the viewer from that you want to that you learned from when you were on the other side and what you took with you? Is there anything that you can give the viewer right now to sort of take with and
I would
run?
say what was helpful for me was to know that all people I came into contact with were an aspect and a fragment of God, and how I treated them was affecting me, and I didn't realize it. Even if they were aware of that they were or not, it was an interconnected relationship with my nervous system and my energy, and it factored in. Um, and also just that God or the divine or creator, whatever you want to call it, to me was a feeling. It was a feeling I felt, and once I felt it again, I'd never forget it, and I chased it, and I started to build on it. And to do that with helping others, serving others, really, when you're serving others, it's not about them. It's about you and your creator. Now you're building a charge that you are going to have the full experience of. When you move away from helping this person, when you help people, don't think things after. Don't worry about what it's going to take. And that doesn't mean let people take advantage of you because you have boundaries.
Mhm.
That means when you
Yeah.
decide to help people, just do it and go on your merry way and know that it's building that relationship between you and creation. Look for as many places as you can, whether it's childhood activities you used to do that you loved, or nature, or writing, or art, to do to re-enlighten your nervous system, because you're looking to introduce frequencies into your system. And how you do that? You do the activities that make you feel that. Your feelings become you. You deserve to feel love. You deserve to feel safe. Um, but whether you believe that or not, that's something I can't give to you. That's something you have to work on.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Steve, again, thank you so much. Can you please share how people can get in touch with
Sure.
you or find you?
They can reach me through trinityquantumhealth.com. They can email me at trinityhealingreiki@gmail.com. That's again, trinityquantumhealth.com. I know I mumble sometimes. Um, yeah, and feel free to send me an email. That's like the easiest way to reach me. I have different sessions and a calendar on there and stuff. I'm not one of those practitioners that denies people. I just have to find the time. So if you're on disability, if you're having a hardship, that's fine. I think it's important we all come together more than ever now at this moment in time and
Yeah.
understand this is all we have now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Each other. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Steve, for your time and for sharing your amazing life story so far. And I look forward to what's to come for you. So thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.